The ultimate Egyptian family feud, Osiris, Set, and the original cold case. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dynamic Interactions channel. Last time, we talked about how the universe basically sneezed itself into existence, gave us a lovely sky and earth, and introduced us to a whole family of gods. Today, we're diving straight into the juicy, dramatic aftermath of that creation. We're talking sibling rivalry taken to an absolutely cosmic, dismembering extreme. So, if you're ready for intrigue, betrayal, magic, and a really dedicated wife, you're in the right place. Now, before we plunge into this ancient mystery, I've got my usual challenge for you. If, by the end of this truly epic saga, you've genuinely learned something new, something that makes you go, wow, ancient Egypt was way more dramatic than I thought. My soap opera suddenly feels boring. Then, and only then, do me a solid. Hit that like button and subscribe. No pressure if you don't, but if your brain gets a little bigger today and you feel that satisfying thump of new, scandalous knowledge settling in, well, you know what to do. Your support helps us keep these ancient stories alive and kicking. All right, enough with the intros. This is a long one, folks. We're talking ancient history's greatest true crime podcast, but in video form. So, go on, grab your favorite beverage, whether that's a perfectly brewed coffee that will help you stay awake for all the twists, a surprisingly fizzy soda to add some sparkle to the suspense, or just a glass of water you've convinced yourself is a magical elixir. And definitely snag a snack. We're talking chips, cookies, that suspicious-looking fruit at the bottom of the bowl, last night's leftover pizza, whatever your heart desires. Seriously, get comfortable, settle in, maybe even dim the lights for dramatic effect, because we're about to explore what happened to the universally loved Osiris and his rather, unfortunate brother, Set. And trust me, it's a wild ride, far more strange and chilling than anything Hollywood could dream up, even with a multi-million-dollar budget and a very angry CGI god. Part 1. The Golden Age of Osiris. Mr. Popular, the King. So, last time we met Osiris. Remember him? Green skin, kindly demeanor, taught humans all the good stuff. He was the eldest son of Geb, Earth, and Nut, Sky, which basically made him the heir to the divine throne of Egypt. And what a king he was! He wasn't just a king, he was the king of the Golden Age. He brought order where there was chaos, taught humans how to farm the fertile lands along the Nile, how to bake bread, bless him for that, how to brew beer, double bless him for that, how to respect the gods, and how to live together in harmony under the laws of Ma'at. He was the ultimate benevolent ruler, the Mr. Popular of the divine family. Everyone loved Osiris. He was charismatic, wise, and just generally a stand-up guy. He even had a beautiful, intelligent, and incredibly powerful wife and sister, Isis, who adored him. Life was good, things were orderly, Ma'at was flourishing. But as in any good story, especially one involving a perfect protagonist, there's always a fly in the ointment, or in this case, a raging, jealous, chaotic brother. Enter Set. Now, we also met Set last time. Remember him? The god of chaos, deserts, storms, and general discontent. He was also a son of Geb and Nut, making him Osiris's younger brother. But where Osiris represented order, fertility, and civilized society, Set was pretty much the exact opposite. He embodied the wild, untamed desert, the destructive forces of nature, and pure, unadulterated envy. Set was, to put it mildly, not a fan of Osiris. While Osiris was off teaching people how to make sourdough, Set was probably grumbling in the corner. Why does he get all the glory? I could make it rain sand. That's productive, right? He resented Osiris's popularity, his wisdom, and the fact that everyone just loved being around him. Set felt overlooked, underappreciated, and probably thought Osiris's green skin was just so show-offy. This festering jealousy, combined with Set's innate chaotic nature, was a recipe for disaster. And when I say disaster, I mean a truly epic, family-shattering, universe-altering disaster. Set started plotting. He gathered 72 co-conspirators, which, for a divine conspiracy, is a pretty large group chat. These weren't just random thugs. They were powerful deities and demons who also preferred chaos to Ma'at, or perhaps just enjoyed a good divine coup. Set was like the grumpy younger brother who gets tired of playing by the rules and just decides to flip the entire board game. Part 3. The Ultimate Gift. The Tragic Party. Host. Set, being cunning and deceitful, devised a truly diabolical plan. He held a grand banquet, ostensibly to celebrate something, probably not Osiris because that would be too obvious. At this banquet, he unveiled a magnificent, exquisitely crafted chest, but this was no ordinary chest. It was a sarcophagus, custom-made to fit a very specific person. This chest was so beautiful, so intricately adorned with gold and precious stones that everyone at the party gasped. Set then made a grand announcement. "Whoever fits perfectly into this chest," he declared, "shall have it as a gift." Now, this sounds like a fun party game, right? Like divine musical chairs, but with more intricate woodwork. One by one, the guests tried, but none fit. Some were too tall, some were too wide, some probably just had bad posture. The tension built. Finally, Osiris, being the good-natured and perhaps slightly naive soul that he was, stepped forward. "I'll give it a try," he said, probably with a charming smile. He lay down in the chest, and to everyone's amazement, or so Set made it seem, he fit perfectly. "He fits! He fits!" the co-conspirators shouted, probably a little too enthusiastically. This was no accident, of course. Set had secretly taken Osiris's measurements beforehand. It was a custom job, like a divine coffin tailor-made for a murder plot. Talk about a passive-aggressive gift. Part 4. The Betrayal and Dismemberment, a Cosmic Horror Story. The moment Osiris lay perfectly in the chest, the celebratory atmosphere vanished. Set and his co-conspirators slammed the lid shut, bolted it tight, and sealed it with molten lead. Poor Osiris was trapped inside, alive but helpless. They then carried the sealed chest to the Nile and threw it into the mighty river. The chest, containing the trapped Osiris, floated downriver and eventually out into the Mediterranean Sea, finally washing ashore far away in the distant land of Byblos, modern-day Lebanon. And that, my friends, was the end of Osiris's reign on Earth. Or so Set thought. But Set wasn't done. He was nothing if not thorough and deeply, deeply obsessed. When the chest containing Osiris's body was later recovered, we'll get to that in a moment, Set, in a fit of rage and fear that Osiris might be revived, decided to ensure his brother would never return. He brutally dismembered Osiris's body into 14, or sometimes 16 or 42, depending on the version, pieces, scattering them throughout Egypt. Talk about leaving a messy breakup. Finding all those pieces would be like the ultimate, most gruesome scavenger hunt in history. You thought finding your car keys was hard? Try finding the divine elbow of a god scattered across an entire country. Part 5. Isis's Undying Devotion, the original super sleuth. While Set was gloating and trying to cement his chaotic rule over Egypt, one deity was absolutely distraught. Isis, Osiris's heartbroken wife and sister. She wasn't just Osiris's spouse, she was the most powerful sorceress among the gods, a goddess of magic, healing, and motherhood, and she was not about to let her husband's murder go unanswered. Isis was devastated, but she wasn't defeated. Fueled by love and an unshakable determination, she embarked on an epic, tireless quest to find every single piece of her beloved husband. She transformed herself, flew across the land, interrogated villagers, and searched every corner of Egypt, from the deserts to the delta. She was the original super sleuth, the ultimate CSI ancient Egypt. She literally wouldn't rest until she had gathered every single piece. She wasn't alone in her monumental task. She was often aided by her sister, Nephthys, who was also Set's wife. Talk about awkward family ties. Nephthys, despite being married to the villain, felt immense compassion for Isis and pity for Osiris, and helped her secretly. Even Anubis, the jackal-headed god of embalming and the dead, and often said to be Osiris's son by Nephthys, which is a whole other layer of soap opera, sometimes aided them. Piece by agonizing piece, Isis recovered Osiris's scattered remains. Every time she found a piece, she would lament and then carefully preserve it. Finally, she had almost all of them. The only piece she couldn't recover was Osiris's phallus, which had been eaten by a fish in the Nile. Yes, you heard that right, a fish! The myths are wild, folks. Part 6. The Miracle of Horus, a tale of resurrection and vengeance. Despite the missing piece, Isis, with her immense magical power, performed a miracle. Using her magic, she reassembled Osiris's body, binding his pieces together with linen bandages, an act that directly led to the practice of mummification in ancient Egypt. This was the first mummy, a cosmic prototype. But she wasn't just performing funerary rites. Before Osiris transitioned fully into the afterlife, Isis used her magic to briefly revive him. In this magical moment, she conceived a child with him, Horus, the Avenger. This was a miraculous conception, born out of immense love and a fierce desire for justice. Osiris had fulfilled his duty as a father, ensuring a rightful heir for his throne. So in a way, Set's evil act inadvertently created the ruler of the afterlife. Talk about a backfire. Meanwhile, Isis, knowing that Set would try to harm her son, hid the infant Horus in the swamps of the Nile Delta. She raised him in secret, protecting him from scorpions and other dangers, nurturing him until he was old enough and strong enough to challenge his evil uncle and reclaim his rightful inheritance. She was a single divine mother, raising a future king in hiding, making sure he knew his destiny. Part 7. The Epic Battle for the Throne, Horus versus Set. Years passed, and Horus grew into a powerful, magnificent falcon-headed god. He was ready. He confronted Set, demanding justice for his father and the return of the throne. This wasn't just a squabble. This was an epic, decades-long conflict for the very soul of Egypt, a divine lawsuit played out across the land and in the halls of the gods. They competed in races, wrestling matches, cunning tricks, and even magical duels. Set tried every dirty trick in the book, including trying to magically poison Horus, trying to steal his eye, and even attempting to sexually assault him, which Horus cleverly thwarted. Again, whole other episode of drama there. The divine court was often divided. Ra, the chief god, sometimes favored Set due to his strength, while others leaned towards Horus and justice. But through it all, Horus persevered, guided by the wisdom of Thoth and the fierce, unwavering support of his mother Isis, who used her magic to protect him and even transform herself into a scorpion to sting Set's allies. It was the ultimate custody battle, but with more magical weapons and falcon heads. Ultimately, after countless trials and tribulations, Horus proved his rightful claim. He defeated Set, sometimes by literally ripping out Set's testicles — the myths are not shy — or by proving his moral superiority. Ma'at was finally restored. Set was banished to the deserts or became a benevolent force against chaos outside of Egypt, or even became a supportive presence for Ra in the underworld, depending on which version you follow. But one thing was clear: Horus had won. Part 8. The Restoration of Ma'at and the Cycle of Kingship. With Set vanquished, Horus took his rightful place on the throne of Egypt, fulfilling his destiny and restoring the divine order that Osiris had established. Horus became the archetype of the living pharaoh, ensuring that the spirit of Osiris continued to guide Egypt through his son. The story of Osiris and Set is so much more than just a family feud. It's the central myth of ancient Egyptian religion and kingship. It explained death, resurrection, and the cycle of life and renewal. Osiris became the compassionate lord of the dead, ruling the underworld and guiding souls to their eternal judgment. Every pharaoh was seen as the living Horus, and when they died, they became Osiris, joining him in the afterlife and ensuring the continuation of Ma'at. This myth provided comfort, meaning, and a clear understanding of the cosmos for the Egyptians. It taught them that even through profound evil and chaos, order and justice could ultimately prevail, and that life, in some form, always continued. It's a powerful narrative about love, loss, vengeance, and the enduring power of family, even if that family includes a dismembering, sandstorm-conjuring uncle. It's a story that perfectly encapsulates the Egyptian worldview, the eternal struggle between order, Ma'at, and chaos, the promise of resurrection, and the vital role of family and justice. These aren't just ancient bedtime stories. They are the bedrock of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. I truly hope you found this deep dive into the cosmic family drama of Osiris and Set as utterly fascinating and perhaps as entertainingly horrifying as I did while telling it to you. If your mind is buzzing with new knowledge, if you feel like you've genuinely learned something profound and surprising about how this incredible civilization saw life, death, and the divine, then please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more journeys into the weird, wonderful, and utterly captivating world of ancient myths, legends, and history. Your support helps me keep exploring these awesome topics and bringing them to you. Thanks so much for watching, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video where we might just explore another legendary figure from ancient Egypt, perhaps the tricky god Thoth or the fierce goddess Sekhmet. You won't want to miss it. Bye for now.